Picture this. The world has fallen apart. The cities are burning, the suburbs are crawling with the undead, and the countryside? It's a buffet for every brain-hungry ghoul out there. But far away, beyond the coast, sits a fortress of concrete and rust, an island prison. Once a place of punishment, now it might just be your only shot at peace in a world gone mad. Or it might be the worst idea since someone decided to invent bath salts. Let's find out. At first glance, an island prison sounds like the dream apocalypse setup. Isolation? Check. High walls? Check. Barbed wire, guard towers, reinforced gates, and cells tough enough to hold human monsters long before the undead kind came along? Double check. And best of all, it's an island. Zombies can't swim, right? Well, most of them. Unless you count the bloated floaters that bob their way towards shore like cursed balloons. From a survival standpoint, you've got a natural moat protecting you from 99% of the world's population, both the living and the not-so-living. But before you start packing your bags for Alcatraz 2.0, let's slow down a bit. First, let's talk about how you even get there. Because if the outbreak has already begun, every dock, harbor, and marina within 50 miles is probably chaos. The military's gone, the Coast Guard's busy sinking ships full of infected tourists, and your best bet might be a half-working fishing boat with an outboard motor that sounds like it's dying. Let's say you actually make it. You pull up to that grim hunk of concrete rising from the sea. Waves crash against the walls. Seagulls circle the rusted watchtowers. It's hauntingly quiet, too quiet. The gate stands open, a skeletal hand dangling from the bars. You step inside. The echoes of the old world still hum through the corridors, clanging cell doors, distant alarms, maybe the faint drip of leaking pipes. Congratulations. You've reached the island. Now the real nightmare begins. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. This was never a place built for comfort. Island prisons were designed to break people, not protect them. Everything is stone, steel, and solitude. There's no electricity unless you bring it. No crops. No fresh water unless a rain catch or desalination setup exists. Even if you find a diesel generator, what happens when the fuel runs out? You're surrounded by the sea. You can't exactly pop over to the nearest gas station. And sure, maybe there's a food storage room somewhere, but canned beans and prison slop won't last forever. So maybe you start exploring the cell blocks. You find signs of the last prisoners. Some turned, others didn't make it that far. You can almost hear the echoes of their panic as the infection reached the island. Imagine the terror of being locked in your cell while the guards fled, or worse, turned. Every locked door, every sealed corridor could still be holding one of them, waiting. And then there's the air. Stale, heavy, filled with the metallic scent of rust and decay. A single scream in a place like this could bounce off 100 walls before it fades. It's easy to lose track of what's real in such a place. The silence starts to feel alive, pressing against your skull like a weight. You find yourself whispering just to make sure you still exist. But let's say you're lucky. You find a control room. You get the gates sealed. You even find a way to lock off the main cell blocks, turning the outer yard into a defensible perimeter. The island begins to feel safe. You got the walls. You've got the sea. Maybe you even find a rainwater collection system or set up solar panels scavenged from the mainland. Not bad, right? Until you realize one thing. You're alone. The isolation that protects you also gnaws at you. There's no human noise, no movement, nothing but the sound of wind and waves and your own heartbeat. Humans are social creatures, even apocalypse survivors. The absence of anyone else becomes its own kind of horror. You start talking to the seagulls. You give them names. You start hearing footsteps in the corridors at night, faint shuffling sounds that might just be the building settling, or something else that's been here longer than you thought. And if you're not alone, well, that's another problem entirely. Because an island prison might already have its own residents. The kind that didn't make it off when the infection hit. A few guards, a few inmates. A few infected. Imagine the scenario. Cells filled with what used to be prisoners, some still locked, some long escaped. The prison cafeteria turned into a feeding ground. Zombies shuffling behind bars, their rotted fingers poking through the iron like strange flowers. You might think you can clear out, one wing at a time, but those echoing halls are a labyrinth. One mistake, one door left open, and suddenly you're trapped in a steel maze with death around every corner. And let's not forget the human factor, because once word spreads that your island is safe, people will come. Not just desperate survivors, but raiders, looters, people who've decided that survival means becoming the new warden of the apocalypse. From their perspective, your fortress is a gold mine. Fresh water, shelter, and a perfect place to keep slaves or prisoners. Defending an island prison is one thing. Holding it against the living is another. A few boats, a few rifles, and they'll be banging at your gate like it's D-Day. But say you're resourceful. You've turned the prison into your personal kingdom. You've rigged traps on the dock, reinforced the towers, planted small gardens in the courtyard soil, even tamed a few seagulls as early warning scouts. You're doing fine, until the weather changes. Storms. Out there on the open sea, a storm doesn't politely ask permission to ruin your day. It just hits. The waves crash higher than the walls, flooding lower floors. Lightning knocks out your makeshift solar array. Salt water corrodes everything, from your tools to your gun barrels. You start to wonder if you're defending a fortress or a tomb slowly sinking into the ocean. And if the apocalypse drags on months, years, what happens when your resources finally dwindle? When the radio batteries die, when the canned food runs out, when the last match burns down, you're left staring at the endless horizon, surrounded by salt water you can't drink, wondering if the mainland is still out there at all. Then again, isn't that what humanity's always done? Built prisons to survive the monsters, only to realize the real prison was inside us all along. An island prison in a zombie apocalypse is a paradox. It's both sanctuary and sentence. The same walls that keep the undead out also keep you trapped within. You trade danger for loneliness, chaos for silence. For some, that might be paradise. No noise, no nonsense, no endless running. Just the sound of the sea and the certainty that you've outlived them all. For others, it's slow madness wrapped in concrete. So is it good or bad? The truth lies somewhere in between. If you're disciplined, clever, and not prone to cracking under isolation, it might just be heaven on earth. You could turn it into a fortress, a beacon of civilization amid ruin. A place where order survives even when the world has forgotten what that means. But if you're the kind who needs company, conversation, laughter, or if you fear the dark when it hums with unseen footsteps, the island prison will break you long before the zombies ever do. In the end, survival here isn't just about fighting the undead. It's about fighting yourself. The quiet, the confinement, the ghosts of the old world whispering through steel corridors. The real question isn't whether you can survive the zombies. It's whether you can survive you. So good or bad, let's just say this. If you ever find yourself standing on a rusted dock, staring at an abandoned island prison rising from the fog, remember that safety sometimes wears the mask of solitude. And sometimes the walls we build to keep the monsters out only make sure we never leave. Because in the zombie apocalypse, every fortress is a gamble. And every island, eventually, becomes a cage.